Remember last week when we met former Ugandan-sponsored child Lillian Nakabiri, currently touring the North Island with singer-songwriter Julia Grace? Well, a big surprise all around when Lillian's Australian sponsor dropped into the Rima studio for a quick chat with Andrew Urquhart before she headed down country to catch up with Lillian.
Rosemary, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Thank you for,
My pleasure.
for being with us. The decision to sponsor a child, tell us about that process and what led you to make that decision.
I suppose because you see poverty on TV or you read about it or whatever, and you can feel very impotent that there's nothing you really can do about it. But by sponsoring a child, you actually can really make a difference. And also, when we first sponsored Lillian, we were doing that. The junior church I was running was involved with it, and I wanted the children at the junior church to understand what the life of other children in very different countries would be like, so to give them a sense that we weren't all living in affluent Australia.
From making that commitment to writing those first letters to what has become quite a deep and interpersonal relationship, tell us about the first part of that journey, I suppose, as you started to send and receive letters from Lillian.
I think with Lillian's letters, I was always amazed at how positive she was and how enthusiastic she was, and how she was always thinking about other people. She would often in her letters either refer back to something I'd told her and say that she'd been praying about something for us, or she'd ask questions, is your mother still ill, or things like that. So I was always amazed at her faithfulness and her positiveness, and I'm even more amazed at that now, knowing her full story, which I didn't know at the time.
With your relationship with Lillian, this went very deep, and from Lillian's point of view, she talked about how the hope that she received from you in the letters were what kept her going through some very dark times that she hadn't told anybody else about. You were, in some ways, her closest friend that she'd never met.
I had no idea that the impact of my letters on her until last year when I heard her full testimony in New Zealand. And I think that's why it's so important to write and to put that effort into writing, because you may never know the full impact. I've met her, I've heard her story, other people may not, and with the other children we sponsor, I may not. But they do have an impact, and you read in the magazines that the organisations send you that, the impact that the letters do have on the children. They treasure the letters, they keep them, they reread them. And so whether or not you know the impact that they've had, you can know that they're having one. So it's important to keep writing.
We talk about the difference that sponsorship makes in the life of a child, but it also makes a significant difference in the lives of the sponsor as well, the impact that has on us. How did that impact you?
Yeah, she's amazing. Even before I'd met her, I was so struck, as I said before, by her faithfulness, to God primarily, and how she always maintained that faith even though her life really was very bad. And again, I didn't realise how bad until last year. But also, faithfulness to us, to remembering things that we'd said, people that we'd talked about. She's kept every letter, every photograph that was ever sent. And that had, her letters really humbled me, because I thought this is quite a small thing we're doing in some ways, and yet it's obviously making such a big difference to her, and the enthusiasm that she wrote with was very humbling.
Rosemary, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.